Greeting and introduction. Welcome to our latest Motorize.de feature. Today we're looking at Yamaha's purest enduro, the TT 659X trim. Light, tough, and built for trails, farm tracks, and gravel passes. The 59X marks the late 80s, roughly 1988 to 1990. You'll find the code on the steering head in the VIN. Classic TT spec, a 595cc air-cooled SOHC 4-stroke with a dry sump, oil in the frame. Kickstart only, 21 18-inch wheels, a 43mm KYB fork, disc up front, drum at the rear, around 42 power at roughly 130 kilograms dry. We'll cover strengths, weaknesses, and smart upgrades, and finish with clear buying advice. You'll find new and used parts at Motorize.da. Helmet on, let's go. Tech, history, everyday riding. History and development. The TT family kicked off in 1976 with the TT 500. An air-cooled 4-stroke single with a Kickstarter and uncompromising minimalism. In the mid-80s came the TT 600. The 59X from 1988 is widely seen as the most mature iteration. Refined hardware, a revised monocross linkage, and a lighter plastic fuel tank replacing steel. Retuned TKIS twin carburetors sharpened throttle response, while AC CDI ignition toughened up the electrics. Compared with the 34L1J, the 59X was noticeably slimmer and more off-road focused, yet still road legal. Signature cues, a rectangular headlight shroud, race plate-ready side panels, and a rugged aluminum skid plate. Defining tech, 595cc with 95 84mm bore and stroke, dry sump oiling with the frame as the tank, 21 18-inch wheels, front disc and rear drum. Evolution, not revolution. The TT 500 DNA tightened, lightened, and honed. Beneath that skinny tank on the Yamaha TT 659X 1983-84 thumps a 595cc single 95.0 by 84.0mm, air-cooled SOHC with a 4-valve head. A dry sump oil and frame system, about 2 liters including the filter, keeps temperatures steady. You check the level with a dipstick in the frame. TKIS twin carburetors with a vacuum-operated secondary feed the motor, and roughly 43 horsepower goes through a multi-plate wet clutch to a 5-speed box. Final drive is a 520 chain, and it's kickstart only, helped by a manual decompressor. Up front, there's a conventional KYB fork. Out back, Yamaha's monocross linkage with around 285mm and 265mm of travel respectively. It rolls on 21 18-inch wheels with a single disc up front and a drum at the rear. Dry weight is about 128 to 130 kilograms, seat height roughly 8 or 95mm, and the tank holds 9 to 9.5 liters. The neat party trick, a batteryless AC CDI ignition. Less weight, fewer parts, less to go wrong. Design and ergonomics, the 59X is relentlessly functional. A rectangular headlight tucked into a compact shroud, a single analog speedo, and rugged race number plates. A slim plastic fuel tank and a long, almost flat seat make it easy to shift your weight, seated or standing. A wide steel handlebar with a cross brace and aggressively serrated foot pegs keep off-road control precise. A perforated aluminum skid plate comes standard to protect the frame rails. Kickstarter on the right, decompression lever on the left bar, both right where you want them. Unique to the 59X, a 21-inch front and 18-inch rear wheel paired with a 43mm telescopic fork, offering roughly 280mm of travel, and a seat height around 910mm. The rear shock features rebound adjustment and a finely tunable spring preload via a threaded collar, handling and everyday usability. On gravel, the TT has a neutral steering feel, tons of traction, and surprising precision. The long-travel KYB suspension irons out hits without wallowing. The 21-18 wheel combo is rock steady, yet it stays nimble in hairpins. On tarmac, it's happy up to country road pace. Past about 100 km per hour, single-cylinder vibes creep in. Day to day, it delivers. Short runs, dirt lane commutes, easy tours. Starting is a ritual. Piston just over TDC, pull the decompressor, a decisive kick. But it rewards you with reliability. On the air-cooled 4-valve TT350 single with YDS twin carburetors, cold starts are quickest with the choke. Range. With the 9.9-liter tank, you're realistically looking at 160 kilometers. Nice details. The single front disc and rear drum are easy to modulate. The monocross rear suspension has adjustable rebound, sharpening the bike's balance. Strengths and highlights. The 59X is all about rugged simplicity. An air-cooled 600 with oil in frame and AC CDI ignition, no battery, there's hardly anything to go wrong. The 4-valve single delivers stout bottom-end torque, and the TK YDS twin-carb setup gives crisp throttle response. A double cradle steel frame shrugs off hits, while the monocross linkage keeps the rear end hooked up. Screw and lock nut valve adjustment makes DIY maintenance easy. Kickstart only with manual decompression, purest appeal. At around 130 kilograms dry with 21 18-inch wheels and generous steering lock, it's made for tight single track. A technical treat. The 595cc engine, 95/84 millimeters, breathes freely and keeps pulling. Nice touch. The stock aluminum skid plate protects the lower frame rails and the dry sump oil line. Weaknesses and common problems. Typical on old TTs, the CDI exciter coil on the stator dies when hot, fine when cold. Then after 10 to 15 minutes, it starts cutting out and you lose spark. Cracked intake boots make it run lean. On the 59X's TK YDS twin carb, the secondary diaphragm often tears. It stutters from half throttle and won't rev out cleanly. A misadjusted decompressor invites kickbacks and will eventually kill the kickstart ratchet. Important, dry sump. On a 59X, check the oil level only when warm, after a short idle at the frame oil tank. Get it wrong and the cam and rockers suffer. The rear drum fades on long descents, so use engine braking. The swing arm pivot bolt often seizes if the needle bearings are dry. Also check for a rattly cam chain tensioner, a weeping countershaft seal, play at the front sprocket and the locking tab washer, and dents in the lower frame rails from the alloy bash plate. Accessories and customization. The XT659X can be sharpened for sport or set up for touring. Acerbis 2022 L tanks stretch your range. Rejetting the TK YDS carb pays off with an open-air filter and end can or at high altitude. A Super Trap sheds weight and lets you fine-tune with discs. Pair it with a twin air. Up front, braided steel lines and grippier pads give a crisper bite point, while progressive fork springs, Wilbur's Hyper Pro, adds stability. Out back, a YSS shock stays consistent as things heat up. For off-road, IMS or wide enduro pegs, a Renthal 7/8-inch bar, 1448 gearing, double rim strips plus rim locks. In practice, a DC regulator rectifier upgrade powers LEDs reliably. Electrex World supplies matching stators for the AC CDI. Model bonus, the air-cooled 595cc SOHC 4-valve 41mm fork and 21 17-inch wheels. Take it all in stride. Market value and buying tips. In this market, good 59X bikes typically go for €2,500–4,500. Prices climb for an original exhaust with heat shield and untampered wiring. Make sure it hot starts and listen for hiccups at idle, often the stator coils. On the TK YS twin carb, check the secondary diaphragm and look for cracked intake boots. Verify the kickstarter snaps back and the manual decompressor works. It's a dry sump engine. Check the oil on the frame dipstick only shortly after a proper warm ride. Loud valve ticking points to deferred maintenance. Check headstock and swing arm bearings for play, the lower frame rails for dents, fork seals for leaks, and spoke tension. Value drivers, the correct 59X VIN on the headstock, a period-correct engine, and the original front cowl with rectangular headlight. Bonuses include Takasago rims and undamaged heat shields. Verdict and buying advice. The Yamaha T659X is the essence of a classic enduro. Light chassis, big air-cooled single, hardly any frills, just honest performance. If you want an electric start, big tanks from the factory, and comfort, look to the XT family. If you're after a rugged, no-nonsense off-road tool, the 59X rewards you with punch, control, and surprising durability. Buy it if kickstarting isn't a deal-breaker and you appreciate simple mechanics. When you're inspecting one, check the YDS diaphragm. Make sure it has a strong spark when hot, and follow the proper oil check procedure. With a few smart updates and parts from Motorize.de, the 59X becomes a dependable companion, on the trail and in everyday life.